Ladies and gentlemen, here is Spokesman-Review writer Ed Condran.
Everyone, thanks for joining us tonight today with and looking forward to the benefit show coming up again. He's coming back virtually for a benefit performance, and it's going to be a joy to chat with Bryan. Oh, hi, Bryan. How are you?
Good, Ed. How are you, sir? Good to talk to you.
Great to talk to you again, Bryan. And I have to say that first off, thanks again for coming back with a virtual show. I really enjoyed your concert you put together in August with the Coeur d'Alene Resort. It was a fantastic show. How much did you enjoy that?
Well, thanks a bunch. It's I can't think of how you could have a bad show at such a picturesque place like that. I mean, it was the resort is gorgeous there, and the sound was amazing. And having two of my dear friends and great artists with me made the show even better. So we were really proud to be there.
Oh, it was a great show, and it was it lifted a lot of folks' spirits because it's so difficult with the pandemic without touring it, but the virtual shows like you've put on, I think it's lifted everybody up, Bryan. So and again, you're going to be coming back with a virtual show. And first off, you're not from the area, but you've performed so often in Spokane, and you seem to have such a connection here. And what put you with a kind of bond with Spokane?
Well, I've been doing this for a long time, 25 years, and I've met a lot of great people. And so I've learned over the years to kind of keep my eyes open, because you never know who your next great group of friends are going to be. And while I've been to Spokane a lot over the last 20 years, in fact, going all the way back to 97, I remember playing at the Spokane Arena with Vince Gill way back when. And so I've been performing there for a long time, but it was the very first Heartstrings event that I did at the Fox Theater. There was just something magical that happened there. I met Carolyn Kadike, the executive director of Multicare Inland Northwest Foundation. And, it's like sometimes you just meet people and sometimes you just connect. And I connected in a really organic way with her, which felt very much like family. And all the Multicare people have been amazing. We've done several events together, and I've been so honored to be asked to be a part of so many of those, and got to experience Hoop Fest a couple of years ago. And there's so many amazing things there. I just love the city. It has a small town feel, and I'm continuing to make great friends there. It kind of feels like a home away from home, if I could say that. So.
Oh no, that's great that you've connected so much, and you're mentioning Hoop Fest, and just to look back at the times you've been to Spokane. What have you enjoyed the most about coming to town?
You know what? I like how everybody is so outdoor minded. I'm a big REI fan. I just love how Spokanites are so focused on getting out out of the house and doing things. And I really relate to that, because I'm the same way. A lot of outdoor folks there, and I connect with a lot of that for sure.
Well, since you mentioned the outdoors, I feel like that is something with the pandemic and just in general, it buoys your spirits, your mental health, and with that too, with the benefits for mental health. What connected you with mental health? Where you would like to raise funds? Where you'd like to raise awareness, Bryan? How did that start?
Well, Ed, I have never been a closed book when it comes to my life, and so a lot of my fans are very familiar with a lot of my struggles. And so I've always been pretty open about that, and because of my struggles and things that I've sort of been through in my life, that you know amplifies your empathy for other people that are struggling, especially when you run into somebody that sort of has kind of been down the same road you have. And I know that's just a big, that's just a hot topic right now. And I think it's a very opportune time to do something to raise money and awareness for that, because this past year has been, it's been awful for all of us, and we've all had our different experiences. And not to say there haven't been silver linings. There's been great things about the pandemic, but the obvious is, a lot of people have lost their businesses. Some people have lost their lives, so on and so forth. So I think this benefit probably hits home more for me than anything I've ever done. So I'm super passionate about it and very excited about next Tuesday, and so thankful for all of this array of spectacular artists who have donated their time and talent to be on board with us to help.
Well, it is. It's such a great lineup. We have, of course, Tim McGraw, Scotty McCreery, Matthew West, and so how does it work, Bryan, about connecting with those guys? I mean, you've been part of it, with Nashville, with country music for years. You've worked with so many people. You've been on bills, like you're saying, like with Vince Gill, and so how does it work with, say, a Tim McGraw to get him involved? I know he's a really altruistic, great guy, but to donate your time, what is the process like to put a show like Tuesday's concert together?
That is a great question, Ed. A lot of people have been asking me that. First off, you can't do it by yourself. I'm so grateful to be working alongside Multicare and Music Cares, and so many people involved on both sides. Just together, it's been amazing. As far as lining all these people up, I don't know. I kind of know a few folks. I've been here for a while, been at it for a while, as they say, and you got to start somewhere. So I just picked up the phone one day and started calling people and texting people and emailing people, and I was really amazed and overwhelmed at the response, and at how so many people, once they realized what it was for, how quickly they were to be a part of it, because they were so, you could tell it meant something to them to be a part of it. They wanted to be a part of it. So you just step out and start calling people, and some people, obviously, their schedules don't permit, and then others do, and you just kind of keep moving the ball forward, slowly but surely.
Well, the work you're doing it's great, with what you're doing and what Multicare is doing, but going about how people are moved to be part of it. I mean, everyone is touched by, with mental health, if not yourself, someone in your family. What's going on now is that I think people are finally getting in touch with this, because in the past, Bryan, I remember like a generation ago, back, say, when you were starting out as a singer, like when you're as a singer-songwriter, it was something where just get over it. It's not physical. You'll be okay. And it was, to me, mental health, the issues with it, it's so then so misunderstood, and still to a degree today. And
Yeah.
And if you could tell me about awareness, about getting the word out about how, if you're having some issues, just don't brush it off. Do something about it.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't know that I've talked too much about this, but I've been to therapy before, and I remember a great deal of anxiety before I actually made the move to do it. And I try to look back and kind of dissect what I was feeling, because we're right in the middle of this, and I want to kind of study this more, because we talk a lot about the stigmas, and I think, at least based on my experience, that you kind of go through the emotions of thinking, well, what are people going to think? They're going to, the paddy wagon. They're going to think that I'm weak, or you think of, oh, what's everybody going to think, and people are going to think I'm not capable of whatever, of doing my job the best way, and I think all those things are just lies. I think we have to keep stepping forward and being brave and talking about it, to pave the way for other people that are just on the edge of maybe making a grave decision, or just not, just feeling so hopeless that they're just done. Paving the way for them to know that they can step out and be brave and seek help. Because you can't get well unless you feel. There's a saying that I learned in some of my therapies: you can't heal until you feel. And you got to talk to somebody. That's the thing. You just have to do it. It's not as scary as I thought. So once you sort of get over the hump and start airing your stuff out, it feels good and it feels very freeing and liberating. And so, I mean, that's the goal of Heartstrings for Hope, is to encourage people that they're not alone. And celebrities are going through a lot of the same stuff that people that don't do what they do are going through.
No, Brian, and when you look at celebrities, I can think of so many musical icons that obviously had mental issues, and and some passed away, some had turned to drugs, there was suicide. And you go down the list, regardless of genre, where it wasn't dealt with, and it's a problem just as like any physical problem.
Right, Ed, and it's a travesty to think about that, to think of how many hundreds of folks, celebrities or not, that their lives could have been spared had they just had a little bit more awareness of it in their life, and maybe somebody that could have stepped in and said, hey, or just being, sometimes being brave is asking somebody if they're okay. It's hard to do that sometimes because we have a little bit of anxiety. The person asking the question even has anxiety about it. And so I think it kind of both sides of it. We've got to be willing to if we ask somebody how they're doing, to be prepared for somebody to say, I'm not doing too good, but be prepared for that. And again, too, guys, I can attest. I'm a card carrier of this, but sometimes I feel like I want to fix everything, and sometimes it's not about fixing everything right then. Sometimes it's just about listening. And so that's one thing I try to remember and encourage people to do, is just sometimes just be a great listener for somebody.
Well, we'll all be listening on Tuesday, and when it comes to the show, and any surprises, what can you tell us that we might be able to look forward to?
Man, Ed, I don't want to give it away. It's good. I haven't even seen the show yet. I'm excited. I'm going to be a spectator as well, so I'm excited. It's going to be a star-studded event. You got Tim McGraw, you got Lauren Elena, you got Scotty McCreery. We have Jordan Fisher. We have Terry Clark. We have Matt Carney, who is actually from your region out there. Not Washington, but has his family in Washington and is from Oregon. And and it's a multi-genre event, which is really cool, because when we started out, I didn't want it to be just this one lane. I wanted it to represent everybody in all facets of music. So I think that's what's going to be incredibly entertaining, and not just the music, but you're going to hear patient stories from Washington, and you're going to hear artists talk about some of their struggles. And it's just going to be an incredible show, unlike anything I've ever been a part of.
Wow! I can't wait, and I also can't wait to see you back on tour. And I'm just just wondering what you're working on right now. I mean, it is what's happening with you in the studio? Are you working on material? What's going on, Brian?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. It's really exciting. I'm a part of a multi-artist tour right now called the Country Rewind Tour, and I'm out on the road with Wade Hayes and Daryl Worley and Andy Griggs right now. And right so far, we've played Florida and Texas, and then we go to Knoxville this weekend. But I'll tell you what, I think it goes without saying that all of us have been incredibly excited just to, we keep saying, boy, it sure is good to get out of the house. So we're glad to be out and glad to be playing music. And obviously, all the venues and all of us are being extremely safe and following all the protocols. But it really has been very, very edifying to us to be out playing music again. So we're doing that. Working on a new single that will be out very, very soon, and just out there still at it. So excited.
No, that's great. But going back to that too about it being edifying, Bryan, what was it like after all this time, and then you're able to step on a stage? There's people there. You're able to have that push and it just seemed. I mean, we're coming up on gosh, I believe the last concert of note, if I'm not mistaken, was March 9th and last year in Spokane, and it's crazy. A year for for cities like Spokane, and I can't imagine what it'll be like because I miss it so much. What was it like?
Yeah, I mean, all of us miss it so much. I would say we played in Florida last month. It was really a kind of a speechless experience because it was just so, I think, moving for all of us on stage because we were being able. There's a difference between sitting here in front of this computer screen and playing and seeing comments. That's great, having that kind of feedback. But when you're playing in a facility, in a venue, and you're getting an instant response like that, and you're hearing people again, it's boy, I think it's something that I'll never take for granted again as long as I'm on Earth.
Well, I think that's going to be the case for so many of your peers. I mean, when we finally get back to whatever normalcy will be, that's going to be terribly exciting. I mean, it's you don't know what you miss until it's gone. And but with it too, you
Boy,
mentioned
ain't
your
that the
single.
truth.
It really is. I mean, because again, Bryan, I remember when this time last year, I thought 4 weeks, 8 weeks. And I remember there was a doctor or scientist who told the New York Times in April of last year that the next big live events will be October 2021. And I thought he was crazy, but who could have guessed? And we
Yeah,
just
I
have to
remember
move past. But no, but go ahead.
we were in Florida when it started to sort of perpetuate, and I remember it being just the most surreal feeling. I remember, kind of being in that period of denial for a while. Oh, it'll be okay, and then you start seeing your schedule change, one thing after the next, and then yeah, I think when it really sunk in as reality, it was kind of a feeling unlike anything I've ever experienced. I told my wife I felt like it was kind of like some sort of movie that we've seen before that was just, it had that, I don't know. So for lack of a better way to say it, like kind of this end of the world sort of feeling, it was weird. It felt like we were on another planet for a little bit, it's weird.
Oh no, it did. But Bryan, what did you guys do as a family? How did you guys get by? How did you pass the time? How did you have fun? And again, I'm sure there were some silver linings of the pandemic about connecting with your family like you had
Yeah.
or
I think that was the silver lining for me, was connecting with my family. And we did a lot of things together, more things together than probably we had done in previous years. And then back to what I was talking about with Spoken Nights in the outdoors, we did a lot of that. I love, fishing and hunting and getting out and doing things. I'm a big runner, and uh, I don't know what we would have done had we not been able to, get out and be on the water or be out in the woods, or me being out running, because all the races are canceled too. So I typically will run a couple of races a year, and those are big time goals to look forward to, and I didn't have those, and so it was so weird. And but you're right, there really was a lot of silver lining too, which when I look back, I'm very grateful for.
right. And when you talk about the outdoors, you hit it right, the nail on the head there, Bryan, is because uh, you know uh, uh, myself, my family, that's what we ended up doing last year. We just didn't. completely shelter away when the summer hit. If you have that distance, I mean, with here to go to, travel to Mount Rainier or to go to just various lakes, it still is possible. And part of it too is that it's not over yet. And for instance, I just ended up seeing something. A press release came in that only 1 out of 8 people are up for traveling this spring. And I mean, it's going to be difficult navigating through 2021. And I still think for mental health, there's nothing like being outside, especially once when you're persevering through the winter in Spokane, that once it gets warm, you want to go out and do those things. And to me, there's nothing that soothes myself, music. So and that takes us back again. Forgive me to go back again to the single. What is it called? And this is always a difficult question. What does it sound like?
Well, if there are any fans that might be watching right now, it's there are very strong elements of me that people would know, but it's also a little bit more. It's got a little bit of a newer, more aggressive type of sound to it. But it's a song called "Busy Doing Nothing." I thought that's a very pertinent title for the last year, but it's really awesome. I did not write the song. Mac McAnally and Steve Warner. Steve Warner's actually the reason reason I got into this business. And it's a really fun up tempo song that I look forward to everybody hearing.
Well, I can't wait to hear it. It sounds like it was inspired, obviously, by what we're living through right now with the pandemic. But how cool is it to have a Steve Warner, a Vince Gill? I mean, if you can tell me, what's something, when you work with someone, like when you go on tour with a Vince Gill, and what was it like when you were back in the '90s, and you're like, wow, playing these arenas, and I'm with an icon like Vince Gill.
Uh, you ever look back on something and think, well, I wish I'd have paid a little more attention to that, or I wish I could have slowed it down and froze it in
Right.
time so I could sit and stare at it for a little bit. I think it's kind of like that. Hindsight, is always clearer. So looking back, I just I think not that I wasn't grateful when I was going through it, but looking back, I'm really grateful. I look back and I go, I cannot believe I've been fortunate and blessed enough to do so many things like that. I remember numerous occasions each night after when Vince was doing like his first encore. He usually did like 3 encores. I mean, he would play 2.5 to 3 hours some nights if he was really just on fire and feeling it. And he would always pull me up to do a song with him at the end of the night. And there were times when I was standing up there on stage and literally just felt like my feet were not touching the ground. I was just like, well, if my dad could see this right now, or my mom, they would freak out. And so lots of moments like that I continually reflect on and look back, and I miss them a lot too. Those were some of the greatest times in my life.
Oh, I'm sure. And Vince, he just comes across as one of the greatest guys, one of the best interviews, and one of the most humble guys considering what he's achieved in the music industry. And always so open, and always had funny stories. And one of the funniest I remember from him was when he ended up telling me that when he was a struggling singer-songwriter, that he was all I was years ago, I was surprised that when he told me that he was offered a gig with Dire Straits to play guitar with Mark Knopfler, and turned it down because he ended up saying, if I accept this, I'll be able to make a living, I'll be able to eat, but odds are I'll never become what I want to be, which is a singer-songwriter. And is there anything like that, any stories like that with you, where you had to make a difficult decision in your career, Bryan, where there was a fork in the road?
Boy, that's a great question. I think I'd probably go back to my initial decision to actually move to Nashville. There was kind of I had an opportunity to go to school, and it was just sort of a crossroads where I felt obviously the music and the opportunities that presented themselves had such a power over me because I was so passionate about music at the time. I knew I was at a crossroads then, and it was a very defining moment. But I had to go with my gut, as they say, because I felt like, I had no money at that time. I had nothing but a dream and a guitar and some drumsticks and maybe a half a tank of gas or something. But I felt strongly enough that something, I felt like I was supposed to be in Nashville and a part of this community. Somehow, I didn't know how, but I knew somehow within that I needed to be here. So I would say that was probably one of the first major defining moments where I had to sort of make a decision.
I think fans don't understand about what it's like, the risk, the just how you put everything in, and you may not make it. I mean, there aren't a lot of guys that turned out like Bryan White, and where you were able to do this, Bryan, and uh, and if you can tell me about that, the one about the fear, or was there fear?
I- I'm a big fan of Jaws, the movie, but I think I like watching the making of better than the movie because I love listening to Steven Spielberg talk, and he talks about that experience and having two things: a lot of courage and a lot of stupidity. And he thinks of those two things existing underwater, and he said, and I thought I related to that because I think I had that. I think I had a lot of courage, but I had a lot of, just stupidity and naivety, just, I didn't, I didn't need a lot then. I just, I didn't have a bunch of money, but to me then it didn't matter. I just had this kind of no fear kind of attitude. And when I think about a decision like Vince, when you're at a place where things are maybe not necessarily happening the way you want them, but you get this big offer to be a part of something that's, going to put food on your table. I mean, that's a huge decision. But again, I think he knew innately where he was going, and he was strong. He felt strongly enough about it that he was willing to not take the offer.
No, absolutely, Bryan, and for me, it's just the fact not only about putting the food on the table, but to turn down a slot with one of the greatest rock bands of all time. And I just think it's interesting about how the Vince Gill story went, and he ends up with one of the greatest bands of all time, the Eagles, after all this. I mean, it's
Yeah.
funny that he ended up getting everything, and if anybody deserves it, it's him. I mean, he's always been fantastic performer
Well, if
and
you think about it this way, had he done that, think of what all he would have deprived us of.
oh,
Gosh,
true.
there's so many amazing songs and great melodies that I grew up with that I can't imagine not having. I Still Believe in You growing up, and Liza Jane, and When I Call Your Name, all those songs. I mean, who knows? It may have changed the trajectory of the whole thing.
Oh, absolutely. And while while growing up in Oklahoma, I mean, who did have aside from Vince Gill, the kind of impact to for you to decide to be a recording artist? And because I mean, who inspired you?
Growing up, I always have to say my mom and dad, they were musicians and singers. And so I like to say I got it honest. They were the first people that I really looked up to. They were my first memories of musical people playing. So they were iconic to me. They still are. I always tell people the first celebrities I encountered were my mom and dad. I thought they were cool. They had bell bottoms and platform shoes, and my dad had ruffles and a strat and playing. His hair was down to his shoulders. And in fact, one of my first memories ever in my life, which I shared at his funeral, was him coming to my show and tell when I was in kindergarten. He walked in with a PV Bandit and a Strat and bell bottoms and platform shoes, and he played a Christopher Cross song and played Under the Double Eagle. And I'll never forget it. It's still so vivid in my mind. I'll never forget that. And then, some years later, because of my parents and their very broad influences, I grew up listening to people like, Ronnie Millsap and Merle Haggard and John Conley. And then on the other side, I loved so many things. I loved, Michael McDonald. I loved Bryan Adams, Nat King Cole, Bonnie Raitt. There were so many people because my parents were local musicians, so they were having to play all kinds of music. And so I'm grateful to have all of those different things that I pulled from growing up. And tons of influences, but I would say my first major influences were my parents.
Wow, that's the first time, Brian, I think I've ever heard that from anybody. But where not that I ask about influences all the time, it doesn't come up that often. But I swear, parents, I always feel the most important gift you can give a child is confidence, and it sounds like your parents did that. And because did they discover? Because I mean, you have such an amazing voice. I mean, was it you? Or your parents that realized you have this gift?
Um, I had a little band with my brother when I was about 14. And I had kind of been singing, in my bedroom and kind of making a little bit of noise. I think I'm freezing up there. I think.
Although you're unfrozen. It's springtime's coming.
Okay. Okay. Good. I was frozen over here. So, um, my mom kind of knew, how moms just know, they know what's going on and you think they don't. Well, my mom knew that I had a singer living in me, and we were my little church band with my brother. We were playing somewhere, and she kind of coaxed me into, putting a mic in front of me, and I sang a song that day and never looked back from that point on. So my mom saw it early. I'm grateful to her for being the instigator of it. And my dad was the sole instigator of me getting connected with the people that ultimately, got me going in Nashville. So my parents were both. Wow, just thinking about that, putting that together, that's pretty amazing to think about. But they were both very instrumental in why I'm here in more ways than one.
No pun intended. No, and now you're giving back, and again, I mean that's another thing. It's so cool because not everybody's so altruistic in the music industry. I mean, some folks just I can think of superstars in the industry that just live in their fortress of solitude, and that's it. I mean, I guess their gift is the performance. And I just always find it fascinating when someone like you, Brian, goes the extra yard. And and again with Heartstrings, and it's great teaming up with Multicare, and the fact that you have this connection with Spokane, with it fascinates me that this continued for so many years. And I'll leave you with this question: what's it going to be like when you do come back to your home away from home, Spokane, to play a show? What can we anticipate? I mean, it's in terms of the crowd. I mean, how exciting is that going to be when you come back?
Okay, cool. I'm glad you said it twice because it cut out the first time. So, when I come back and actually play a show in person in Spokane, I think that's what you were asking.
Absolutely.
I think they can expect new music. Somebody who is uh, even more and more connected with such a great city and so many great people in the city. I think the sky's the limit. And I think uh, I see a lot of really fun experiences in your city. I've chatted with a lot of people about just different little excursions and things that I need to still go do that I have not done there. And so I'm kind of making a list of some things that I want to do and achieve in that great city and in the surrounding areas. So I'm looking very forward to the next few years with my experiences in Spokane.
Well, Brian White, I
You
want to
know what?
thank
Let
you
me just say
for.
one little caveat. Uh,
Go ahead.
I
Oh, what was the caveat, Brian?
I
I'm
lost
sorry.
you there for a second. Sorry, Ed.
Oh no, that's okay. That's the excitement of technology. But go ahead with that caveat when you get a chance, when technology lets us.
Well, I wanted to let you know that I finally slid down the red slide. Just so you know, so I guess it's all official now. I'm kind of a transplant now, if you will.
No, no, you are, and no, you're. If anybody's an honorary citizen, it's you. I mean, you've done so much, and the thing, it's cool. It's the cool thing is that it's so genuine, Brian, and I just hope all the readers go out and go online to support the virtual show Tuesday. I mean, it's such a great benefit show, and when you look at the array, how can you not spend your Tuesday night tuned in, on your computer, and that's what we'll have until we can actually get together in person again for a benefit show or a headlining performance by Bryan White back in Spokane. So I can't thank you enough for taking the time tonight, and again, spending your afternoon with us here.
Well, same here, Ed. It's great to talk to you for a second time, and great to kind of sort of see each other. And although we're not in the same room, but it's fun chatting with you. And again, I do look very forward to performing live in Spokane and being back. It's always such a joy, and I foresee a great future ahead for all of us. And just want to encourage everybody to just go to multicareheartstrings.org, and you can purchase a ticket there and watch this awesome show on Tuesday.
Well, absolutely. I hope everyone does. I know I'll be there, and it's going to be great to support that. And again, thank you very much for taking time out in your busy afternoon. And it's going to be great to see the show Tuesday and to see you when you do actually come back to Spokane.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ed.
All right. Thank you, Brian, and thank everyone for tuning in here today.
Will do.